So my primary concern for Mafia, the old country, has been length, girth, dare I say. And it's because, the game's priced at 50. They haven't shown a whole lot of it. They've done in the last week or two a lot more marketing with it, showcasing a lot of gameplay and some uncut segments. But there's a sneaking suspicion that maybe the game is really short, that it's $50 because it's only been in production for like 2.5, 3 years in full capacity. And so it might just be like a pretty short thing. So I think it's a valid concern. Honestly. But look at this. Reported by Josh Chalice over on Insider Gaming. Mafia the Old Country dev says the game isn't short just because it's only $50. They say Mafia the Old Country developers insist the game's length isn't short, despite some players assuming it is due to the $50 price point. So what they said specifically was, speaking to IGN, Hangar 13 president Nick Baines insisted players won't be disappointed by the length of the game with, quote, all the depth you'd expect in terms of dialogue and world that has been created. He added that, quote, no one needs to be concerned about the quality of the game or it being super short. Baines did not reveal exactly what the average completion time for Mafia the Old Country will be. He told players to expect Mafia 1, Mafia 2 style experience and predicted that everyone's going to be super happy. The first 2 games in the series clocked in around 10 to 14 hours of completion time, so the comments suggest there could be a similar length of time. It certainly doesn't have to be a huge endeavor that, like I said, like the 50-ish hours it took to complete Mafia 3. Now, this particular claim that it's roughly in line with Mafia 2, Mafia 1 style experience makes me think, okay, they might be shooting for that 12-hour mark, which I think is a good timeline to land at. I think that would be a good spot. If it's 12 hours long, though, I don't know why they wouldn't just say it, Like, it might be one of those situations where it's like, oh, it's like 12, 13 hours if you are kind of bad at combat and die a lot and have to redo sections, but otherwise it's like 9 to 10 hours. I think that's more likely. I don't think it's, I think if it's below 10, we start to get to the realm where a lot of people will probably scoff and wait for like a deep sale before playing it. If they can get to like that 12-hour mark, I think that's a reasonable point for $50. I think that a lot of, especially Mafia fans can play with it and dig into it there. But I think you got to get above 10. 10 is a nice square number. People like 10. It's round, solid, reliable. I think if you're below 10, even if your game is like, $50, I think people still think that that's just too much. If you start going down to like 30, 40, then I think people are more understanding, but I think you got to get above that point. But I'm primarily interested for the story. I'm primarily interested for the narrative and stuff and the cutscenes and the world building and all that. And they seem to have done a really good job with that. I just hope there's enough meat on the bone to really connect with it, I think 10 hours is fine. I think 10 hours, like for me at $50, if the story is really good, like all of this is presuming it's good. Okay. Like you can't dismiss that. It's got to be good. If the story is good and compelling, then I think you can go to like 8, 9 hours and I'd be happy. If it's really good, high production value, high quality. If it's 8 hours and like mediocre and boring and repetitive, then of course I'm going to be upset. Like Suicide Squad, $70, and it's basically 2.5 hours of content, but stretched over 10 hours. Like they have the same missions over and over and over and over again. And then they have all of like 20 minutes of dialogue, here and there. Really not well balanced in my opinion. But if it's like a really nice, linear, well-written narrative experience that goes over the course of like 10 hours, I can live with that. I'm happy with that. How long was the Horizon Lego game and they still charge full price? Well, that flopped catastrophically. So I think that's technically a separate issue. But let's see, 7 hours, it says 7. But even like Mafia. So Mafia 1 was 16 hours, which is funny because the definitive edition says only 10 and a half. Even though it's technically the same game, but just reworked. Mafia 2 was 11 hours. So if they're pointing to Definitive Edition and Mafia 2, average completion time for the main story is 10 and a half or 11 hours. That's reasonable. It's weird though, because in the IGN article, he also says, or in the Insider Gaming, he says it takes 50 hours to complete Mafia 3. This is saying 25. So I don't remember it taking 50 hours. Maybe if you're doing like a completionist run, but even then, that's a lot. Anything above 3 is huge, in my opinion. It's not really the length that matters. It's what you do with it. Plus, it's way too long. When it's way too long, it hurts my eyes. feel like we may be talking about different things. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, so I think if they're in that 10 to 12 hour range, I'm happy. But I feel like by not just clearly addressing it and be like, hey, we're shooting for about an hour each chapter. We have 14 chapters, or we have 12 chapters. I'm okay with that. I think that would quell the concerns. But we're gonna know soon enough. The game comes out in almost a week, August 8th, I believe. So almost a week. And I don't know if they're doing reviews a day before, a week before. I don't have the game, so if people are reviewing it, I don't know. I'm not currently reviewing it or anything. But I would imagine in the reviews we'll find out about it. We'll see. If it is short, if it's only 10 hours long, I wouldn't be surprised if they only give like a few days to review it,